Kampam susamikshmano bunjana evatma kritam vipakam. This vipakam relates, the root of the word is the same as the kumbhipaka. So basically I'm saying, I'm cooking in my own juices basically. I set it up, whatever I put myself into it, now don't complain. In fact, in the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam, the Avanti Brahman says, if you bite your own tongue, who can you blame? Who am I going to complain to? Have you ever done that? You bite your tongue and you look around, your spouse, your kid's looking at you like, don't look at me. You just bit your tongue. So in a similar way, I've created this situation, and here's an astounding statement that may change your life forever. And this is from Prabhupada's purport, not from that verse, but in another verse in the 4th canto. And it's so astounding, but shocking at the same time, that you may never be the same after you hear it. So if you don't want to change, then at this point, cover your ears with both hands. Those of you who would not like to change. Anybody? Okay. This is 426.21, Prabhupada writes, if one accepts punishment as a reward dealt by the master, he becomes intelligent enough not to commit the same mistake again. Shall I read it again? Yes. You're not too shocked? No? If one accepts punishment as a reward dealt by the master, he becomes intelligent enough not to commit the same mistake again. Okay, please repeat. If one accepts punishment as a reward dealt by the master, he becomes intelligent enough not to commit the same mistake again. Because it's possible to say that I didn't deserve this, and that wouldn't make sense based on the last thing we said, right? Did I get everything I have now is what I deserve? I could say I didn't deserve this. This is due to somebody else's grudge against me and so forth, and then I won't be able to take the lesson from it. So this is a quintessential attitude of the Vaishnavas, is that they accept punishment as a reward of the master. Now this doesn't mean that you don't have to react in practical ways to injustices in the world. For instance, if there's some practical abuse, it's not that you don't call the police, because it's just my karma, punishment by the master. But internally, we adjust our attitude as we go through the various trials of life to accept that this is coming because of my past karma, and I'm taking it as a reward, as an award by the master. And I can then learn from it and become very strong in Krishna consciousness. And here's a mantra that I learned one day when I listened to a conversation. It was an interview, in fact, with somebody who, in his talk with the interviewer, referred to himself. He's from Oklahoma, and he said, well, I'm an Okie. And the interviewer, being a very liberal person, said, oh wait, we better not say that because it's not really politically correct. Somebody might take it as a slur. Any Okies in here? Sorry. And so the man said, oh no problem, I live to be corrected. Everyone please say. I live to be corrected. So there's a way in which you can self-adjust your attitude. Try this with your spouse, or your friends you're close with, or anyone else. When it comes up, when there's a situation in which you want to learn, you can say, I live to be corrected. And it opens the channels, so you can actually hear what the other person's saying, the criticism. It may be something that I can learn from. It's not easy. Now this also, again, doesn't apply externally sometimes. Somebody's bullying you or something like that. Not that you simply accept it and say, I live to be corrected, please beat me more. But internally, we can see every circumstance as a way that we're being corrected by material nature. And in many circumstances, we can use this mantra, in fact, and say it out loud. And my wife reminds me frequently that I bring this up in seminars. Say, we live to be corrected, right? And then I can process it. And it may not happen right away. In fact, it may take me 10 minutes or an hour to come around to the point of being, all right, I live to be corrected, to be able to say the mantra and actually take it. But that's an attitude adjustment. And it's a way in which we actually move through this world in a way that we can become whole persons, fully integrated, both materially and spiritually. Vidyam chayas, tadvedo bayam saha, avidyayam ratum tirtva, vidyayam ratum ashante. Only one who can learn the process of nescience and transcendental knowledge side by side can transcend the influence of repeated birth and death and enjoy the full blessings of immortality. Says the... Which scripture is it from? Sri Upanishad, yes. Do we have prizes to give? Peter's got a prize. We have got to give some prizes. See in this bag if there's any prizes. There's probably a little packet of trophy. You win something in this class, see? You can win something. And how long is the class? Okay, thanks. How's everyone so far? On a scale of 1 to 10. 1 means you got to go because your mom's calling you for a peanut butter sandwich. Okay. All right. Now, here's one for you. Don't carry grudges. Everyone please say. What is a grudge anyway? It's like a little animal. They're very dangerous. They have sharp teeth and they're very fierce. And people carry them around and they bite people. Grudges. Anybody here have a little grudge they carry around with them? Ferocious little beast. Don't keep them around. They'll bite you. They bite really hard too. They can sever tendons and everything. So don't keep grudges around. They're very dangerous. And it slows down your process of Krishna consciousness to hold grudges. So what do you do with them anyway? A little grudge. You just turn them loose. Take them out to the wild somewhere in a little box and say, okay, little fella, now get out of here. Run free. Just let them go. Grudges, you got to let them go back into the wild where they came from. And don't let them stay in your house. Don't let them stay in your car or under your arm or in your heart, anywhere. Just keep them out and let them go. Let grudges go. Okay, in the general category, we're invited in the Shastra to abandon envy. And that's a good idea because sometimes it's called as burning envy and so forth. And I just have to read the definition for envy. It's a feeling of discontented or resentful longing aroused by someone else's possessions, quality, or luck. And Jiva Goswami says, envy means the inability to tolerate the eminence of another. Can we at least tolerate the eminence of another? At least tolerate it. And on the other side, Voltaire says that those whom we appreciate, as we do so, we take on the other good qualities of the person that we're appreciating. When we envy others, we actually block all access to their good qualities. But when we're able to appreciate, and Queen Kunti says, Shrinvanti Gayanti Grinanti Sadhava. One of the processes of devotional service is little grudges got loose back there. Someone must have let them loose over here and they went to that side. They're tearing stuff up. And Queen Kunti says, Grinanti, which means that if you simply appreciate the devotional service of another, you'll go back to Godhead. This is in that same category, isn't it, of following, of kalpante taniha. If you simply follow the great souls, you follow in their footsteps to the best of your ability, according to your capacity, you follow them in your heart and mind and actions. So in a similar way, this process of abandoning envy means that you become free from something that is extremely pernicious. So there's a story Prabhupada tells about a dog going across a river on one of those boats that you cross the Ganges and other places. And he gets on the boat and he has a scrap of food in his mouth. And as he's going across, he looks into the water and he sees another dog in the water looking back at him. He's got a piece of food in his mouth. And he thinks, I deserve a piece of food and he doesn't, and I'll take his too. So he snaps at the other dog to take the other one. And what's he snapping at? Himself. He's snapping at his own reflection, looking back at him from the water. And he loses what he has. So appreciating changes the course of envy. Learning to appreciate others and seeing their good qualities and not being disturbed by them is a practice of adjusting the attitude. And by doing that, by learning to appreciate others, we actually take on their good qualities and will advance very quickly on the path of devotional service. And we'll take 3 reflections now from this section. The first one, the first secret of developing an uncommonly powerful spiritual practice even while living in Omaha, Nebraska. Okay, 3 reflections. Anything you want to take from the back of the room? Just raise your hand. Go right ahead. A reflection doesn't mean a Bhagavatam class. It just means one thing that you heard, a concept, an idea. Right up here. Here. The mic will be to you in 3 seconds or less, or your money back.
So this might be my lawyer side coming out, or someone who believes in justice. Also, as someone who's been a victim of abuse, I find instructions such as internalizing things that don't go well as not blaming on others as something not instructive or helpful in dealing with my own internal progressing in Krishna consciousness. Sometimes it helps me to actually put that blame on someone else. And it's difficult for me to talk about it as well. So am I hurting my Krishna consciousness by am I misdirecting that grudge or the remorse that I've had in terms of stuff that I really had no control over in blaming the perpetrator?
Yeah, well, everyone has a unique situation. And it requires finesse to untangle oneself from the material world. So the principles I'm giving are broad stroke and general, and as principles are. That's the definition of a principle. So there may be ways in which you take steps to get to that point. And if there are various ways that help you to get to that point, then maybe that is a good thing for you. But that it's a little more detailed than we can go into right now. But I appreciate your point. And did you understand my answer?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. Couple from anyone who hasn't given points yet? Yes, over here. Reflection means one thing you heard that stuck in your mind.
Can it be a question?
What's that?
Can it be a question?
No questions right now because we're moving along because we're running out of time.
Well, you mentioned this point that to get rid of envy, one should offer praise. And I'm reminded there's a verse in Srimad Bhagavatam 11th canto that if one offers praise or criticism, then one gets lost in the modes of material nature, and which is not helpful in life, in devotional life. Is that correct?
But of the two, praise is okay, says the Shastra. 2 things: one shouldn't praise or blame because the material nature is working uniformly. However, the Shastra says it's okay to praise, just not to blame. And I'll go into that a little bit in a minute. We'll take one more. Yes, a reflection.
Can I ask a question?
No. Questions. Right now we're just taking reflections. Later we'll take questions.
Hi. I'm not quite sure I agree regarding if you're going to take full responsibility of your actions or whatever events that happen, that throwing it at karma, it seems again that you're throwing the responsibility on something else rather than your own actions. I mean, I had that issue when the speaker spoke, the pro tennis player spoke the other day also.
Sure. Yeah, but what I'm saying is that I'm taking responsibility for creating the karma myself. In other words, I put it into action. And it's a little... your questions and responses to this are indicative of how deep this particular point is, and it may be also an indication of how important it is. And it also requires a very focused and more detailed discussion of that, like in a separate class where you go into that. And it is the subject matter, as Yogeshwar Prabhu pointed out in his class the other day, of many religious studies of why bad things happen to good people. But I'm just pointing out here some very basic principles that the scriptures are recommending, and how to get to that point may take a few steps. Now I'm going to move on because I'm really running short on time, and I want to cover the last two secrets of developing an uncommonly powerful spiritual practice wherever you live. The next is gradual incremental improvement. There are many aspects of spiritual life that may seem overwhelming as I approach the practice, and the entire prospect of reaching the goal may seem a little daunting, mightn't it? You agree? Yes. So tell us three parts that you think seem kind of overwhelming. Which practices or parts in your personal life seem a little bit overwhelming, maybe? Yes, in Krishna consciousness. Okay, chanting. We may see that getting to somebody who's just starting and being asked to chant 1 round or 4 rounds or even 16 rounds or something like that may seem a little overwhelming or daunting, right? Or doing it every day for the rest of your life, or doing it without offenses or so forth. 2 more things. Yes?
And especially
overcoming attachments?
Subtle attachments.
And
which
subtle
seem
attachments.
very inherent to my very self.
Yes. This was mentioned by Devahuti to Kapiladev. She said, it seems like I am my body. It seems like these desires and the willfulness for enjoying material life is unlimited and it'll never go away. How am I going to overcome it? Right? So many great saints asked this question too. Nice point. One more. Something that seems overwhelming. Go ahead and I'll repeat it. Having the mood of a servant may seem daunting. Right. So there are many things. We could probably go on and make a long list. So here's one technique, if I may call it that, if it doesn't sound too mundane, for approaching these overwhelming subject matters. And that is through gradual incremental improvement, 1 step at a time. In the Shastra, in the scripture, you'd like me to prove this, right? Yeah. Okay. In the Bhagavad Gita 6:25, Krishna uses these words, Shanai Shanai, which means gradually, step by step. He's talking about the meditation process. And he's telling the yogis in their process of meditation, he says, gradually, step by step. Gradually, gradually. Shanai Shanai. Everyone say. Shanai Shanai. Say it one more time. Shanai Shanai. And now when you leave this conference and somebody grabs you by the arm and says, what was that guy talking about? That you'll say? Yeah, just gradually, step by step. One little tiny step at a time will get you to the goal. And then in a verse that is one of my favorites in the Brahma Samhita, which is 559, Krishna is speaking. He says, Pramanais tat sadacharais tarabhyaser anantaram bhodayanatmanatmanam bhaktam apyutamam labet. See, he says, you can attain the highest perfection of bhakti by slow degrees. Slow degrees. Everyone please say. Slow degrees. Yeah. Isn't that reassuring? You can do it by slow degrees. Brahma Samhita, and it's 5.59. By slow degrees. And he said, take help, pramanais, through the scripture, as we keep doing here, trying to back up everything that we say and that we do. Pramanais means evidence. Pramanais, tat sadacharais, that means to amend your behavior, have good behavior. Pramanais tat sadacharais tarabhyaser. And then third one, abhyas. This is a real winner for all humans. Anyone human, raise your hand. This is for you. Okay, abhyas. Few of you didn't raise your hand because you don't feel human this morning. I know, I feel your pain. Okay, so abhyas means to practice. And how much should we practice devotional service if we want to advance? A lot. Practice a lot if you want to make advancement. Abhyas means to do something over and over again. And if you take a tiny little filament and the next day you add another filament and you keep doing it over several days, several weeks, several months, then you get a little thread. And if you keep adding threads together, what are you going to get? A little cord. And what do you get when you add cords together? Get a rope. And pretty soon it gets really thick. Like the ropes on the Rath Yatra carts in Jagannath Puri, they're about this big. They're gigantic. I could barely get my hand around it. I went to Rath Yatra one year and pulled the carts. And gigantic rope. I'd never be able to break that rope. It's so thick. And there's, through abhyas, through practice, a little bit every day, with the scriptures and chanting and going on, then we develop this strength, just by degrees, by slow degrees. Now, who here looks sometimes at all of Prabhupada's books and thinks, there's a lot here, it's a little overwhelming, it's a little daunting, how could I read all these books? Okay, I have a solution. Let's pass this out. Inside my bag, I have a little chart, and it's called Be a Sage Page by Page. How do you become a sage? Yeah, how else would you do that except for one little step at a time and page by page? So on this chart, it shows you each one of Prabhupada's books, and then next to it, it tells you how many pages you need to read each day in order to complete each one of those books within a set amount of time. For instance, did you know that if you read just 8 pages of the Srimad Bhagavatam every day, you will finish the entire Srimad Bhagavatam in, can somebody give me a drum roll, please? Over here. In just 5 years. And the point is, you're going to be 5 years older in 5 years anyway. But if you complete the whole Srimad Bhagavatam within those 5 years, you'll have changed your life in extraordinary ways, unimaginable ways, by being in touch with the Srimad Bhagavatam. You notice the difference in those who are reading the whole Srimad Bhagavatam. They have a goal to finish it. Now, anybody here feeling ambitious? Who feels ambitious? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Everyone's feeling ambitious. It's good to feel spiritually ambitious. We should, just as materialists feel ambitious for building buildings, climbing to the highest mountains and so forth. Can I have one? Just in case, for reference. We should also be spiritually ambitious. Are you all looking at it and picking numbers there? Do you see how it works? Okay, for those who are ambitious, if you read just 41 pages of the Bhagavatam a day, you will, drum roll please, finish the Bhagavatam within 1 year. You can finish the whole Bhagavatam in 1 year, and it's just 41 pages. So here's a practical tip. You can go to Office Depot, and you can buy these little plastic flags. And they come in a packet where you can pull the flags out and they stick 1,000,000 times over. You can keep sticking. And then you can put a little number on it for whatever book you're reading. For instance, who saw a book on there they want to read using this method? Which book is it? Srimad Bhagavatam? Okay, did you pick a number of pages you'd like to read? Perhaps you don't have to commit to it right here, but let's just say 21 pages, is that one of the options? Okay, so that means 2 years. So say you pick, you're going to finish the Bhagavatam in 2 years, so you'd write on there with a pen 21 and stick it right in the Bhagavatam. Try this today when you go home. Get your Bhagavatam, put it right in there, and then move 21 pages ahead and put the marker in, and then you get a do not disturb sign. That's also part of the program. You get one for your door that you're closing, and turn off all your electronic devices, just like when you're taking off on an airplane. And then put a do not disturb sign on your mind also, a little one inside. And you finish your 21 pages. And if you do this every day, this is one of the best practices you can do. In fact, the first time our Sankirtan party met Srila Prabhupada in San Francisco, and our temple president was exalting how many books the party was doing, Prabhupada looked at us and said, "You must also read my books. I have not written them just for selling. I've written them for you to read, to become pure devotees, and go back to Godhead." So this is one example of how to divide up everything. One is this reading. And you should have a schedule of how many pages you're going to read every day and stick to it. And based on this principle, if you take a small number, something very minuscule that you know you can do consistently over time, then you'll find you'll get momentum and you'll move ahead. And your life will change. Because by contact with the Srimad Bhagavatam on a regular basis, Bhagavad Gita and all these books, you'll make great spiritual advancement. What do you think? Anybody here like to try it? You're like inspired? You want to try it? You don't have to make a vow in front of everybody, but is it something you'd like to, think about? Go down to Office Depot, get your packet of things and write a number? And how do you think you'll feel when you write that number and stick it in the book? You'll be exhilarated. You'll feel like, what is it? Motivated. You feel motivated. We have to have some motivation to move forward. So this is one small example. So this idea of incremental improvements, I like to use the example of a wedge. Everyone do this. It's a wedge, right? Make a wedge. I notice, see a wedge? It's small on one end and big on the other end. So you can start with the really small end, and if you push it in somewhere and you just keep applying a little pressure, it'll open up a wide opening for you. So in the same way, in our spiritual life, we start something small and we keep applying a little pressure every day. It'll open up for us a whole universe of advancement in spiritual life. So I saw, when I was in Mayapur one day, 2 devotees in the temple room talking intensely, and a third came along who wanted to interject something. Has anybody ever interjected anything for you? And how did this person achieve an artful interruption of their conversation so he could interject? He went like this. He came up like this. Try this. Turn to somebody next to you and go like this. Then they stopped their conversation, and I thought, there's the wedge. It came out. This little wedge is like, all right, I'm starting small, but come in. It's a little mudra for the incremental improvement. The small end comes in first, and then next thing he took over the conversation. So take over the materialistic conversations that are going on in your head, and all the other so-called obligations. Everyone has so many so-called obligations, but the real obligation, which is a great relief to know, is to, with one pointed attention, constantly hear, chant, and remember Krishna. Why so many other obligations? They've taken over. So you have to interject. You have to come in and say, excuse me, put the little wedge in, and I'm going to start right here, 1 page a day, and the next thing you know, it'll be 5 pages, then 10, then people won't be able to find you. Where is he? He's up, I don't know, he's up on the ridge. He's reading Bhagavatam. Can't find him anymore. There's a do not disturb sign on every door. And this is the way to move forward with a small increment, starting mini habits. Don't go for a big thing, but try to start new habits. You can write them down and decide, what do I want to change in my life? And take this approach, incremental, gradual improvement, and you'll move forward. For that end, also another practical point, I have an application on my phone called Habit List. Habit List. And you can list all the new habits that you want to start in your life, and then tell what interval that you're going to be doing these things. So you can add these things on. For instance, I read my 21 pages a day, or practice Madanga or Harmonium, or whatever things you want to add to the list. And then every day it will check in with you, and you have to click on the button for it to leave you alone. So you can keep score of how consistent you are with making these new habits. The third secret of developing an uncommonly powerful spiritual practice, even while living in Omaha, Orlando. how could you possibly have a powerful spiritual life?